case.
And then also the town attorney, as you probably read in an email already, he's not going to make it tonight either. He had a commitment
Okay.
somewhere, with the Taos Pueblo, with legal matters through them for the town of Taos, so he won't be here
Okay,
tonight.
let's go ahead and
All right.
start.
Okay.
Yep. Roll call.
Okay. Chairman Patterson?
Here.
Vice Chairman Lukes?
Here.
Commissioner Garcia?
Here.
Commissioner Lee?
Here.
Okay, thank you.
Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any changes to the agenda, Mr. Perea?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as I referenced under item 5A, case number SUB 2012-1, the applicant's agent, Mr. Alex Abeta, is requesting a continuance on case number SUB 2012-1 to the regularly scheduled January 2nd, 2013 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. So, Mr. Chairman, I guess what I would recommend is when we do get to that public hearing is that the commission take a vote then as to whether or not to continue the case to that date and time. So
Okay.
other than that, Mr. Chairman, that is the only thing on the agenda that will be changing.
Sure.
And at this point, I don't have anything else from staff that needs to change on the agenda.
Just so I can get some clarification, it really is
Okay.
not a change. It's just that we're going to act on it if to allow it to be continued to next month, right?
That's correct, Commissioner
Okay.
Garcia, yeah.
So there's really no changes.
No changes, no.
Okay, motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor say aye.
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 Meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one comment on the minutes. Where it says approval of meeting minutes, it does say their meeting minutes are also unavailable for the regularly scheduled October 3rd, 2012 commission meeting due to lack of quorum. Well, there wouldn't be any minutes, so that really should be stricken from the minutes itself. Since there was not a meeting,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be minutes.
That sounds right.
So I would just delete that last sentence.
Okay, Chairman Patterson, Commissioner Garcia, the reason I put that information in there was because if anybody in the future from the general public wanted to request minutes from that meeting, they would be able to read that there wasn't any. You know what I mean? That's just really an information item for the general public in the future should they try to request something that we don't have, which is those minutes from that meeting. So that's the only reason that was put in there as an information item, you know.
So I guess the question is there another way to create a record that there was not an October 3rd meeting?
I think your meeting minutes, I think you would have minutes from that meeting that just say that the meeting wasn't held due to a lack of quorum.
That's correct.
And that's the only reason I put that information in there is, you know, so if anybody did try to, in the future, obtain those minutes, they would see that and, you know.
Well,
have to
again, I think it doesn't need to be put in
Oh, okay.
that section there. It just needs to indicate there was not a meeting for the October meeting, lack of quorum,
Okay,
somewhere else. I don't know where, but.
okay.
The gang of
All right, duly
four is
noted.
coming.
So other than that, I don't have any other changes or deletions or amendments.
Okay.
So I think, Rudy, I would just create meeting minutes from October 3rd and say there was no meeting due to a lack of quorum.
Okay.
And then we can approve those at our next meeting.
Okay, that sounds good. And Mr. Chairman, I'll do that for
Okay.
next month. Okay.
So then, let's see. So we'll make that one change on the agenda, really. Or that's actually in the meeting minutes.
Yeah, the minutes.
Yeah, for September 5th. Any other changes to the meeting minutes from
November 7th.
November 7th? If none, I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from September 5th as amended.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
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 And then Rudy, we're still looking for meeting minutes from, that gives us September and October. I guess that takes care of it, huh?
November.
September 5th is what,
November meeting minutes.
Well,
Yep.
the minutes you have in your packets.
it's for November.
This is for November.
Okay.
Yeah, those are the minutes from November.
That's what we
November
just
7th.
approved.
Yes.
Okay, so we're still just missing the September minutes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and at this point, those will not be created just because of issues like I had referenced before.
Okay.
There was a mix-up with the broadcast, our new broadcast providers, and that therefore, I wasn't able to create the minutes from the meeting because usually what I do is I go off the DVD
Okay.
and I summarize the meeting from that. So.
I do have one question, though, in reference to that. Was there any action taken on in the September meeting? I think we still need to document it somehow to reflect that.
Yes, sir.
So there
Okay.
needs to be some minutes.
Okay, so what I'll do is actually what I can do then is I'll just summarize the actions that were taken, such as any votes or any decisions that you guys made, any final decisions or intermediate decisions. I can do that. It just won't be as elaborate as you see here for the
Detail,
November.
which is fine.
Okay, perfect. Then
It'd be nice to get caught up on those, Rudy, so we're not behind.
Okay, all right,
Okay. Okay.
all right.
With that, I think we move on to.
Did we make a motion, just to clarify, we make a motion for the November minutes? To approve them?
I think we did that.
You did the September one earlier.
No.
It was
September's
I
October
understand-
3rd.
I understand what we're talking about now, but
Yep.
earlier you made a motion that was approved to approve the September minutes. We never did a November approval.
I think we're just asking for the November minutes.
I think there's a little bit of confusion. I think we're approving the November 7th
We did.
meetings.
We
Yeah,
are
we already did.
Yeah.
Well,
We were voted on.
There was a first and second.
I think there was an intent to do that, but what was stated was September
Oh,
in the audio. It's all right.
So October 3rd we're missing, and we'll infill.
Yeah.
Yep. We approved the November minutes, and we're still missing.
We're still missing the September 5th ones, but like we've just discussed, I'll summarize the decisions that the commission made
Okay.
on the cases that were held on September 5th.
That's correct.
And that will be the entire extent of the minutes for
Which is
that
fine.
September 5th.
That'll
Okay.
get us caught up.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, and yeah, that'll take care of it then.
Thank you, Rudy.
Okay, thank you, commissioners.
With that, I think we'll move on to final public hearings.
rules.
Can we please have the rules for public hearings?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rules for public hearings. In order to conduct an orderly and impartial public hearing, the chairman will preside and make all rulings for testimony given at tonight's meeting. The Planning Commission members have received and reviewed extensive materials regarding each application before the commission tonight, including the application and all related documentation, staff reports, and any letters in the file either supporting or opposing the application. The following rules will apply. Number 1, all persons wishing to speak must first sign the speaker list and will be called in this order. Number 2, speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to address the commission. Number 3, speakers representing other persons will be allowed 5 minutes. The speakers must show written documentation that they represent someone else. Number 4, the chairman will allow cross-examination or rebuttal if the chairman feels this is pertinent to the findings presented. Number 5, the chairman will not tolerate shouting or unruly conduct and may direct the sergeant-at-arms to have any person removed from the meeting for cause. Number 6, the chairman will then close the public hearing and allow the commission to deliberate the pending action to be taken based on the findings presented by staff and by the public. The commission may approve, deny, approve with condition, or postpone the decision to a subsequent meeting announced by the commission. Number 7, the chairman will then call for the question and voting will take place as to how to proceed on the application. Number 8, anyone aggrieved by the action of the zoning commission may file an appeals pursuant to the appeals procedure set forth in the Town of Taos Land Use Development Code. The appeal must be filed within 10 working days of the decision. And number 9, all cases will be heard on their own merits and do not create a precedent for other applicants.
Thank you, Rudy. With that, I
Okay.
think we can proceed with agenda item number 5A, SUB 2012-1.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, at this time, I would request that the commission take a vote on this case to continue this application to the regularly scheduled January 2nd, 2013 meeting due to the fact that the applicant's agent has not submitted or complied with all the requirements for receiving final plat approval on this application.
Mr. Chairman, before we vote, should we check if this gentleman is here to speak on this item, or we just go
Chairman
straight
Patterson,
to the vote?
Commissioner Lukes, no, this gentleman is not signed up to speak on this issue. He's on for the next case.
Okay.
With that, I think we'll close the public hearing. Any discussion from the commission?
I do have one question in reference to a continuance. Is there any guidelines or policies or regulations of how many continuance are allowed in a particular hearing or case?
Chairman Patterson, Commissioner Garcia, no, there isn't. It's solely based on the discretion of the commission. Pending, the commission always has that discretion to make that determination based on whether or not the applicant has satisfied the commission, for their case, and whether or not it's basically at the commission's discretion.
So in reference to the agent on complying with certain issues, he feels comfortable that he'll get those addressed by the next meeting?
Yes, Commissioner Garcia, Chairman Patterson, I will be meeting with the applicant's agent next Monday to discuss this, so I can make sure that he supplies all the documentation you will need for the January hearing to keep this application moving forward.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And if at any point we chose to not allow a continuance, we would disapprove the application, and then their appeal process would be to the town council. Okay.
That's correct. Yeah, you have the discretion either continue at this point or just deny the application.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. James, thank you. We didn't expect you tonight.
I know. I
Thank
guess
you
I'm
for-
going to the Pueblo on the 18th instead
Okay.
of tonight.
You're a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, well, thank you. At any rate, relative to the adjournments of public hearings, it would be the town attorney's position that it's appropriate to adjourn from one meeting to the next. It's not appropriate to continue to adjourn and adjourn and adjourn and adjourn. I would strongly urge that, as a matter of policy, that this commission entertain one adjournment, and after that the process would have to start over, because it lends itself to at least the appearance of impropriety when you have public hearings and then don't hold them, and then people start to lose interest and don't show up, and then on the night when no one shows up, then boom, you decide to have the public hearing. That's totally inappropriate, and I would suggest that the better policy would be to allow one adjournment, and that would be that. Thank you.
Point taken, thank you.
Yeah, where were you when we had Mr. Cordova's application before us here?
We had a similar application that continued for several months. Yeah,
Became a habit.
right.
Well, there's case law out there that would suggest that's a denial of due process. Not necessarily to the applicant, but to those who might be opposed or otherwise want to speak.
We'll make a point not to do that. in the
Mr.
future.
Chairman, if I may?
Let's see. So let's go ahead and close the public hearing, since we didn't have one. And with
You
that,
did.
we can entertain a motion.
I move to grant continuance subsequent to the applicant's request of case number SUB 2012-1 to the January 2nd meeting.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Rudy, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Patterson,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Lukes,
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
With that, we can move on to agenda item 5B, we'll call it, on the agenda.
Okay,
Case number ANXZC 2012-1.
okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, I am recommending that the commission make a recommendation to town council to approve the requested annexation of a .730 and .735 acre parcel into the town of Taos. And furthermore, I'm recommending that the Planning and Zoning Commission also make a recommendation to the Town Council to designate these two properties as a R14 multifamily residential. And at this point, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I have no conditions of approval on this application, and I stand for any questions you might have. And we also have one of the applicants in the audience if you have questions for them as well.
So this will require two separate actions, one on the annexation and one with the zoning.
Yes, Commissioner Lukes, yes, that's the cleanest way to do it from a legal standpoint.
Mr. Chair and Commission, just to let you know, too, these two parcels are inside an area that has already gone to the council for consideration of annexation through the use of the Boundary Commission. So these two parcels have been previously identified by the council as appropriate for consideration for annexation through a different process. So I just want to put that out there.
Do we have the applicant in the audience tonight?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
my name is Francis Montoya.
And Mr. Montoya, do you have anything to add to the application tonight?
No, essentially, my dad, Wilgus Horatio H. Montoya.
If you're gonna, Mr. Montoya, if you're gonna speak, would you
Oh,
please
yeah,
step
I'm
up to a
sorry.
microphone? Yeah.
My father, Horatio
Let's-
H. Montoya.
Okay.
Mr. Montoya, if I could interrupt for just a second,
Sure.
would you please state your name for the
Oh,
record?
yes, Francis C. Montoya.
And do you swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Can I be
Mr.
heard?
Montoya.
Okay.
You may proceed.
This is the first time I've done this.
Oh, that's good.
You know, my father, Horatio H. Montoya, passed away about 3 years ago. Willed this land to my sister and myself. The surrounding property, we noted, was already annexed and rezoned to the city of Taos, as well as my uncle's land. So my father's initial intent was to have the same process completed. So we started that, Rudy, I'm thinking about a year ago.
Mhm.
8, 10, a year ago. And so we're just proceeding with that, with the idea in mind that, we want to benefit from better police protection, fire, utilities, access to utilities and those types of things.
And Mr. Montoya, is it, not that it really affects the application, is it your family's intent to develop the land, or
Well, at this
simply go
point,
through the zoning change and the annexation process?
that's our current intent.
Mhm.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Are there any other questions for the applicant?
No?
None?
If I may, I'd like to submit for consideration the fact that Mr. Pereira has been just fantastic in terms of starting this process, proceeding through the process, getting information back to us. My wife and Rudy have exchanged 20, 30 emails. He's assisted us in the process of everything that we needed to know. So I just wanted to make note of the fact that he's an exemplary employee, and we should appreciate the fact that he's been available to help us.
Thank you for that.
You betcha.
It really doesn't
Thank
get
you,
enough
Mr. Montoya.
compliments.
The timing couldn't have been better.
Let's see, and Rudy, is there anybody signed up to speak on this application?
I'll check
You
that.
don't need to check. There's nobody here.
It's the voices.
Just trying to save you a trip.
Just being thorough.
No, Mr. Chairman, there has nobody signed up to speak on this particular issue.
So with that, I think we can close the public hearing. Any discussion from the commission?
I'll just say that this makes a lot of sense. I don't know how many of you drove by and know exactly where it is, but it's perfect for development.
I want to have a discussion here just for a second. We had a discussion at the last meeting regarding whether this was R4 or R14. Does anybody want to, who has the best memory on that discussion? I don't.
Well,
remember all of these.
I asked why such a leap from, because there is, if I remember, there was some very low density adjacent. There was also R14 adjacent, and I asked why such a leap if there was some specific purpose for it, development or otherwise.
Yes.
And then the applicant answered, and Rudy answered that because of the proximity to another R14, they felt it was appropriate for R14, again, the way I look at it personally, where there is existing infrastructure, water, sewer, and gas, it makes perfect sense to go with a high density, even though R14, you can't develop it and make it look good. That's my own experience. What we did, and the chairman as well, we did some projects where we developed them to R8 standard in order to create a nice ambiance. But I have no problem going to R14 because it will lower the land cost for housing in Taos, and we all want to see the cost of housing to go down and make it accessible to a wider range of people. That's just my take on it.
And I think part of that discussion is, in the past, I think we've often advocated for some kind of buffer zone between a high density and a low density. I think I also agree that I'm okay with an R14 zoning along Goosdorf Road because density belongs there. And I think it's, right now, I think it's just been a toss-up between where the county boundaries are and where the town boundaries are. But I think in terms of density around that area, it makes sense. Up and down Goosdorf Road, in and around the high school, we've seen some higher density apartment projects, condominium projects, but it kind of fits the development pattern along Goosdorf Road.
And still close to the core of town. You're within a mile and a half of the plaza.
So I think it's really just it's down to the argument of whether you have a buffer zone between a higher density and a lower density. And
well, isn't it the case though, if this was zoned R14, that you could build basically like an apartment?
Sure.
You can.
And then you would have a situation where you would have an apartment I'm not saying that this is what you're doing, Mr. Montoya, but you could build an apartment complex right next to a rural area, essentially farmland. Is that the vision that we have as a town right now? I mean, is that what we're planning? I understand that there's other the Vita Felice one that's right across the street there.
Yeah, I think in an ideal scenario, it's been my experience, and Matt Foster can also tell his opinion. Usually, you kind of taper off high density into lower density. You don't jump from R14 to 2-acre minimums. You go to maybe R1, 1 acre per residence, but this is a little bit different because of the existing zoning already.
And also, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, if I may, the existing infrastructure does support that type of zoning, and the existing Vision 2020 master plan does encourage, the creation of high-density zones for affordable housing purposes. So exactly. Right. So you have the actual physical infrastructure on the ground that supports the zoning, and the town's existing master plan that supports this type of zoning. So you have those two things also as reasons for R14 zoning for this property.
Yeah, and I think the revision is also going in that direction of the infill, the proper zoning. That's why the setbacks have been reduced to encourage infill development.
Yeah.
And the other thing, there are properties with R14 there already, so.
Yes, absolutely.
Adjacent, so it's not like it's just
exactly.
Standalone.
Yeah, we wouldn't be creating a spot zone or, something that, is completely out of character with the neighborhood, as far as zoning goes.
Mr. Chair and Commission, and this is also located on Goosdorf Road, which is a primary north-south arterial, so it has a lot of traffic. It's got a lot of intensity. It is located by the high school. But I would agree that as you proceed with the properties to the east, that you start to taper down your zoning, your intensities as you go across. There is other existing, because the configuration, if you ever look at a map of the town's boundaries, there's a segment to the east of this enclave that zips down that is also in the town. I believe that zoning over there is R4. And so you can see the taper. You could do that, make that adjustment across this area to achieve what you're talking about.
I see. Okay. Mr. Foster? Not that I'm conducting the meeting, it's just I saw your hand. Sorry.
Thank you. I just get right to the point, I would recommend an R4 zone for this piece of property for the reasons that you mentioned in terms of tapering from a higher density on the west side of Gusdorf to, the more rural farmland, undeveloped open space, low density residential that's there.
Does the applicant have any issues with it being an R4 versus an R14?
Well, our decision was based on.
Mr. Montoya,
Do I need to come up
yeah,
there?
step back up, please.
Our decision was based on the fact that, there are R14 surrounding properties. And so being an R4, it just didn't make a lot of sense. So we proceeded with the application as an R14. And that's, so I really don't, it wouldn't, I don't think, be our objective be, have it rated as an R4 versus an R14. So, and again.
And why exactly is that?
Well, again, because we're surrounded by, and I think, I say surrounded, I believe to the left of us, to the front of us, to the south of us, it's all R14s.
I think,
parcels.
So according to this map, I think you have one adjacent piece on Gusdorf Road.
Correct.
That's R14.
Yeah.
And then,
No,
Across
That's
the
all
street.
unincorporated, is located north, east,
Yeah.
and south sides.
so then on three sides, it's RA, which is
Yeah.
county.
That's correct. And then also, Mr. Chairman, if you look at that map a little bit closer, you'll see that, yes, there is some vacant property to the east of these properties that are going to be annexed in, but it's not completely, it's not all farmland, it's not all rural agricultural, as you probably noticed already when you drive down Gusdorf, you're going to see a bunch of housing developments,
Yeah.
outside of this patch of vacant property. So really, you're not preserving, in other words, you've got a big piece of land here that's undeveloped, but it's surrounded by development already. So really, I don't think R4 would be that appropriate, just because it would be appropriate if everything to the east of Mr. Montoya's property was undeveloped and vacant and completely agriculture, but it's not. It is already, to some extent developed, so it's really not. Worthwhile to give it R4 zoning when there's really you're just doing it for this strip of land that, is surrounded already by development. So I would still recommend R14
I have a question
for this,
Mr. Moore.
these two parcels.
The other direction of the town to annex that area, what zoning is going to be sought for whatever land is to be annexed?
The code states, I believe, that you go with the lowest available zoning or what's compatible with it right now. And so it probably would be an RA. I mean, that's what it is. Or we'd be checking it. Then there's variable amounts. The properties in that enclave are variable sizes. Some have already got houses on them. Some are just, relatively large open fields. So we haven't done that analysis yet.
So it depends what the current uses are and
Correct.
the sizing.
Correct. And then we would come back with a recommendation on the rezoning of the properties based on what's there, and then the configuration of the parcel sizes as well.
I'd like to just point out another thing is that, when you have existing infrastructure, it's a really efficient use of what's existing if you can hook up 14 houses to it versus 4 houses. So, and that cuts down also on road trips for people, rather than if you spread them out. So I'm still in favor of R14.
Well, my issue is not necessarily just the R14. It's just, if we're going to have R14, is it our intent to develop this entire area with, that type of density? Are we trying to create a density all along here that's R14, or are we just going to have this one isolated building in that spot, and then nothing else is going to be developed around it? I understand the affordable housing concept, but we're also, looking at the aesthetic quality of the community as well.
If you come off of Cruz Alta on that same side of the road, you could make a good case to zone commercial, because that corner is commercial. That northeast corner. So if you're coming towards the town, you could make a case for commercial zone.
I think that in the last hearing where we heard this case and discussed it, I think I brought up the idea of graduated zoning just because that's been the policy of the commission in the town in the past. In this instance, up and down Gustav Road, I would advocate for the development pattern to be dense housing up and down Gustav Road. One, because we have the infrastructure for it, and two, because we have, we have the massive circulation there in terms of Gustav being a well-traveled path. And I also don't mind, in this instance, I don't mind it being a densely developed pattern right up against a rural agricultural pattern. I think these are patterns that you see more often, I would say, even in Europe and Spain than we see here. And I think it's actually, I would advocate for that pattern of development here, where we have the county up into the town boundaries, and then a denser level of development where we have the infrastructure for it. So I brought up that point in the last meeting more as a piece of conversation. I think in this one case, I think it fits. And
I concur.
I'm okay with the R14 zoning.
Also, the largest property owner closest to this property is Mr. Lieber, who owns 24 acres. It's never going to be agricultural land. As soon as he annexes, watch, because he's got frontage on 4 roads, it's going to be residential development.
And I think it fits in this area up in the Gustav Road. Yeah, other areas it may not. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Montoya.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman? I'm
Yes, sir.
sorry to interrupt, but I have a procedural question. I thought I heard the planning director say that this parcel is already before the boundary commission.
No, it was, Chair and Council, it was brought to the council for direction for inclusion in the package that would go to a boundary commission hearing. It has not gone, it hasn't been scheduled.
It hasn't been published then.
No.
All right.
It has not been published, it's not part of any legal act.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. I was concerned around 2 tracks for an annexation here. I misheard. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. James. Yeah. Without any further discussion, I think I would entertain a motion.
You have to close it.
I think we did, but let's go ahead and close the public hearing for the record.
Okay.
And with that, I think we can entertain a motion.
I make a motion to grant final approval for the annexation of case number ANX 2012-1 into town of Taos.
Just some clarification, and there's 2 action items that we need to do. So I'm going to just do the first one. Okay.
We'll do
Yeah.
annexation first.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have a motion for approval on annexation.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Priya, can we have a roll call vote?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Patterson,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Lukes,
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I make a motion to approve case number ZC 2012-1 and grant the zoning that's been recommended by the staff, R14, based on findings of facts.
And Mr. Priya, just for the record, were there any conditions that went along with the zone change?
No, Mr. Chairman, there were no conditions attached to the zone change application.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
We
you.
have a motion. May we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Priya, can we have a roll call vote?
Okay, thank you, Chairman.
Discussion, just a second.
We can stop for discussion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a comment.
Okay.
Before I vote, I'm of the opinion that it should be R4 until and unless he finds a potential developer for it. I don't want to shape this in any particular way until it's shaped naturally by potential developers surrounding it. So I think it should start at R4 and then potentially be increased to R14 at a later date.
Commissioner Lee, any developer can do everything and anything below R14, so it doesn't preclude the developer to develop to R4.
I understand that.
But it will force a developer from R4 to come back to us to upzone it.
And that's what I would want.
Okay.
And I think I would also add that, all the development standards from R14 apply. So setbacks, parking, open space. It would be difficult to take 1.2 acres and develop it to 16 units within the development standards that we have. So we're still restricted by the development standards that exist there, and it's difficult or near impossible to develop to R14 in that standard. It's simply the zoning that goes along with the land. Yeah. So we have a motion and a second. Mr. Perick, we have a roll call
Okay.
vote.
Thank you, Chairman Patterson. Chairman Patterson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Lukes?
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia?
Yes.
Commissioner Lee?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Montoya, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Montoya.
With that, I think we'll close the public hearing portion of our meeting, and we'll move on to matters from staff.
And we're limiting it to 3 minutes.
That won't be a problem, at least not for my part. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. I want to turn the mic over to Oscar Rodriguez, the town manager, is going to give you an introduction on this topic.
Mr. Garcia, thank you for joining our meeting. Yeah, Rodriguez.
Buenas noches. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. For the record, my name is Oscar Rodriguez. I'm the town manager. I've come here to present to you, I guess, our latest draft of our attempt to update the Vision 2020. We went to the council last Tuesday, last Tuesday to present the draft. You've all seen it. A presentation was made to you, and the council was just a little apprehensive. First of all, there was just some basic aesthetics I was pointing out to the staff, and that is that if you look at the Vision 2020, the whole document itself looks like that. The piece that was being revised here, the element that was being revised, is about 15 pages of that document, and it's about that much, and the revision is this much, and so there was some explaining to do. There were the council had gotten questions from the community about, how much the public had gotten a chance to engage, etc. We explained to them the long process. But even so, what the council asked us to do was to go back and do another round, another campaign of public engagement. And so we want to start that. And we'd like to start that here with you. In the next coming days, we're going to publish a schedule of public or community outreach events to try and get more input. And we're also going to try and tailor our report, revise the revision itself, such that people can easily see, what were the basic elements that were being revised and why they were being revised. Now, what you also have in the document here in the revision 2020 is everything possible that addresses that land use element. And I would point out to you there's some things that even I would eventually will want to either taper down or take out completely, but we give them to you here so you can weigh in on them and tell us yourselves what should stay in, how it should stay in, etc. I do want to tell you too that the council is very interested in hearing from you, hearing a formal, a detailed recommendation from the commission as to the revision. And so that they can weigh that along with the input from the public that we bring back to them after our public engagement campaign, and so that finally we can get to an updated Vision 2020. We did explain to the council that the main reason, or one of the main reasons that we were revising it is because the Vision 2020, among the many things that it called for, was precisely such a revision. And so we're just simply complying with that. And anyway, we come here to you to get your input. We're very, very interested in hearing what you say in detail. We'd be glad to then also give you a more detailed presentation as a group or individually. And we will also invite you to all our public engagements so that you can weigh in on that as it goes forward.
Mr. Rodriguez, what would the public engagement process look like?
Well, I guess at that point I would turn it over to Matt, who will be in charge of carrying that on.
The council had specifically mentioned what they call roundtable discussions open to the general public. So I'm imagining at least 4 of them in the next 3 or 4 months at different times of day and days of the week to make them as accessible to the majority of the community, people that work during the day or on the weekends and so forth. There'll be outreach campaign, posters, radio, newspaper articles, publishing them. I'm just right now trying to think of exactly what that 90 minutes will look like, whether it's storytelling or presentations or literally roundtables with facilitated discussions or a combination of those kinds of things. Trying to generate, validate the vision, provide information to the community of what the draft plan contains, and above all, make it clear to the community that this is a draft and that the purpose for these meetings is to continue to modify the draft and represent what the needs are in terms of land use and development decisions for the town. So I don't know exactly what those will look like, but I imagine 3 or 4 of them in the next few months taking place at different times and different venues.
Mr. Rodriguez, in your experience, have you taken similar municipalities through this process?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. It's not an easy process. And by the way, one of the things that I heard from the council individually is their recollections of what they did to get to this point. Right. And so I guess when they heard about the revision, they were hearkening back to those times and saying, well, this is how we did this. Why did you do that? And it has taken quite a bit of effort to explain to them, well, in the first place, this is only a small element of that piece. It's not an attempt to come up with a new vision, but just simply to update that. Now, some of the impact or the policy decision that they would be making by adopting this are serious, are very significant, and will take us well into the future, including the discussion that you opened up earlier, Mr. Chairman, and that is the idea of how then you preserve open space at the same time allow for enough density to compensate for where you want to keep the open space. And so we'll make sure that people understand that, and so we can go forward. Now, just to go back to your question about my experience with other communities, the communities I've worked with in doing this, one happened in the case of one community where we really were responding to an emergency. I won't go into the details about that, but it was an expedited situation, and not the most ideal circumstances where you're reacting to something and you have to quickly put together a plan in order to address it. So it was more a defensive move than an actual vision. And then another one where I was involved with in one community, a major city that did this. Well, it took years and years and years, and frankly, I finally left the organization, and they were still in the process of doing that. And it's something that just brought out a lot of contention in the community, and ultimately it was resolved politically, really, at the ballot box, and that's how things got resolved. So every community is different, and ours actually, I mean, really, from what I know about the process, the original process, and the way it is right now, it's gone rather peaceful. Almost, my concern would be almost too quiet. Yeah, and perhaps that's why, when it comes to the council, they say, why hasn't there been a lot more noise from this? Because when we first did it, there was a lot of noise.
Right. And I think, we're in the unique position of being proactive with our forward-looking vision. And I think the flip-hand side of that is that sometimes people don't take these plans seriously until there is a reason, if an emergency or some other force driving the situation. I think we've been involved with Mr. Foster for years going through this, and I know he's put in a lot of time and effort. And did you have something to add?
Yeah, just one final thought, that this is the land use portion of, I think, 7 different elements. We got some grant money for the next year to complete the updates to the economic development element and the infrastructure element, where we will have a number of more stakeholder meetings, public meetings. This is a comprehensive plan where the idea is that these issues of land use and economic development and infrastructure and etc., they're all related and comprehensive, that there's integrity there, that they speak to each other, that they're consistent with one another in terms of the vision and the policy direction that we're going as a community. So this will take a few more years, and fortunately we have some resources to do that, and so there will be more a lot more opportunities for individual groups, individuals, business owners, property owners, community organizations, and the general public to chime in. But we decided from a long time ago to do this one piece at a time, try and get more specific, more focused, more particular. So we can look forward to meeting our consultants and looking at preliminary drafts and more public outreach, focus on infrastructure and economic development, but really with an eye towards how do these issues all relate to one another.
Mr. Rodriguez, I think one reason why it's been so quiet, I think, is because Mr. Foster has done a tremendous job as far as reaching out to different community groups. I know he's been talking to the media. I know he's contacted the Real Estate Association, and makes himself also very available. So that takes kind of the edge or suspicion of secrecy away. So a lot of credit for that should go to Mr. Foster.
Oh, indeed. I'm satisfied that it's gone a complete process, and in a way, it's sort of become somewhat of a victim of its success, in that it was just so little contention out there.
So on Taos to be so civilized, huh?
Well, actually, I have seen nothing but civility in everything I've done so far, and so I'm glad to see that it continues here. Very glad it continues here. I would just, if I may, just want to underscore one thing. I think by way of assuring the audience, yourselves, and also the council, and that is the attempt here is not to change the vision, but to update it as the vision, the plan itself called for, updated with current information, with the facts on the ground, and the best information we have now with the science and with what knowledge is available today about how things actually work, and that's the only intent, to simply update a vision that the community worked on 10 years ago.
Mr. Rodriguez, I do have a comment in reference to trying to grasp the forums that might be in place. And I think, while there hasn't been a lot of outcry at this point, there are concerns. We've heard a few of them. We've had some people attend and shared some of their concerns. Is the council going to be part of it? I know, there's issues in reference to not having a quorum and that kind of thing, but I think a lot of the public would like to, in these type of forums, hear or vent what their concerns are about, so the council directly hears that instead of one final meeting at a council meeting where a lot of people can't voice their concerns or issues or their direction. And I'm just curious if the council has discussed maybe one or two members attending some of these forums, just so they can hear what the public is saying or some of the areas or issues that they have. I mean, it's just a...
No, at this point, we haven't structured how those meetings are going to go, as Matt has explained to you. But at least my assumption was that at least some of these meetings there will be some council members present. With your suggestion, I'll take that to the council and invite them and suggest that they be there.
Are these roundtables going to be attended by the members of staff, or do you want some commissioners there too? Or
the commission is always welcome at these things. Please come. If you want a more central role, a more leadership role or facilitator role, we'd be glad to give you that role and recognize you in that role. And you bet I'll be inviting the council so that they can come there. And depending on how it goes, and I'll be communicating with the council through this process. It may be appropriate at some point, in fact, for there to be maybe even a presentation by a council member as to what they have heard, et cetera. I'll see just how far they want to go with that.
Well, and again, I echo what of the members have said about Matt. He's done a great job. He's reached out for a lot of people. But we're always trying to be transparent, and there's always a group that are hesitant in believing some of the things that are displayed, as what's going to happen. So the more that they hear from the council or the council hears from them, makes the process, I think, a lot smoother going forward. So,
Point well taken. Thank you.
I completely agree. I think I was there during the original Vision 2020 hearings and public meetings, and it was really Mr. Peralta who led them at the time. And with a commissioner or the mayor being there, then I think people who are involved in our community take it seriously, and they show up to have their voice heard as well.
Okay.
And I would really look forward to some public hearings with the commission and the council members involved. Yep.
Good. So we'll circulate that calendar and that outreach plan with you, if you wish, we could circulate that to you in a draft form, so you could have some input before it's finalized, and then before we go public with that.
Excellent.
Right?
I look forward to the public process again.
I just have a quick question. It might be for you, it might be for Mr. Foster. I'm not sure. But you stated earlier, Mr. Rodriguez, that there was some apprehension by the council to adopt this. And the points that you made were that it was the sheer volume of it was one of the points.
Well, no,
One sec. Let me finish my comment. But one of the comments was that it was the sheer volume. The other one was that there needs to be more outreach. My question is, were there any specific issues with the content of what was produced within the revision that Mr. Foster created that we can bounce around as a commission at this point before we go out to the public? Or was it just those two items? Was there, in other words, restate it, was there specific things within there that they were uncomfortable with?
No, nothing specific. In fact, really there weren't two items. It was just one item, and that is they wanted to be assured that the community had all the opportunity possible to provide input, and for them to be asked the question. In fact, the only specific suggestion that was made was to ask the community, do you agree with the way we think the facts have filled in Vision 2020 with sort of the draft here. And so it's all that. It's just that, very general. Nothing more specific than that.
Mr. Foster?
Thank you. I did hear one a little bit that one thing that comes to mind is some comments and feedback about the smart code, and I probably need to do a better job and make it clear to the community and to the council and to the commission that this plan is not the smart code. It's not recommending adoption of the smart code. A lot of the information that's in this revision plan comes from the public input process we had in the charrettes of the smart code process, and I borrowed a lot of that information. I think it's very valid, very useful, very helpful. So I needed to do a better job at that, but some of the feedback that I got, the only thing I could think of from the council meeting that was negative or critical was a lot of concern about the implementation of the smart code.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
My pleasure.
Good to see you.
Seeing you.
Mr. Foster, do you have anything else to add?
No, not at all.
And do you have any? Good night. Would you like to speak? Any members of the public would like to speak to this matter or not? No. Just you. I'm talking to you. Just wanted to extend the courtesy since you had the courtesy to join us tonight. Thank you. If there's no other matters from the commissioners, we could make a motion to adjourn.
So move. So second.
We have 2 motions to adjourn in 2 seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Say it twice.
Motion passes. That's it for tonight. Thank you all.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. Thank you, Rudy. It's nice to get praise, huh? Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. See you, buddy. All right, we'll see you, man. Can you think of anybody else to join us on Dennis?
I'll think about someone.
Yeah.
Commissioner Lee,
Yeah.
don't forget the dress code next time.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, Sparta jersey.
That's right.
Sparta jersey.
Okay, we'll see you. Thanks, Dennis. Have a good one.
Gifts you can give. A Democracy Now! Hoodie for $100, a T-shirt.